Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks in Planet Zoo. And as you see, we are currently in one of my zoos. And as you also see, maybe if you noticed, these flamingos seem to search something in the water. They look at that if they are somehow eating something. You can also really good see it really good here. And yeah, this is also the topic of today's episode, namely how to hide, or better, to use enrichment items, at least a few of them, in a better way. And as you might know, enrichment items are a very important part of Planet Zoo's Planet Zoo's system. They provide animals with fun, with something to play with, and also they are food enrichment, so animals have more interesting ways of eating their food. And there are a lot of different enrichment items. We have a whole list of different ones for almost all species in the game, and some of them are more artificial, like this mirror enrichment piece here, but some are, they could be better, but they look artificial. And to solve the riddle, these flamingos are actually feeding from their enrichment piece from the forage pool, this one, but it is hidden. It is hidden underground, as you can see here. It's underwater. I can click on it, and you see it. And the same goes for this spot. There's another one in here. You might see it. It's a little bit, it's under the rocks. Whoop, there the camera goes. It's under the rocks, and I want to show you today how you can achieve this, and also how you can hide a few of the other enrichment pieces better in your zoos, so it looks more natural. Like if the keeper would go in here, throw the food in the water like they would do in real zoos. And yeah, these things you can also do in franchise, in sandbox, in challenge mode, in any game you want. They have no limitations that you only can achieve in sandbox. They are for every play mode. So yeah, let's look at the specific enrichment items I found you can hide the best. So, and here we are. This is a range of items I used in the past, and I found ways to cover up a little bit. Of course, there may be more, because we have, as I said, a lot of enrichment items in the game. But if you find more, or if you have ideas for more of them, then you can leave it down in the comments. It would be really appreciated. But yeah, on display today we have the restraint feeder for most carnivores, for big carnivores, and also the crocodiles. The forage and box enrichment for a lot of apes and stuff like the red pandas. The forage pool for the flamingos. The rotation line feeder for also another bunch of carnivores, also for the wolves, and so big dogs and cats. The hanging grazing feeder from most of the antelopes and deers. The newly beaver pool for, of course, the beaver. The mud bath, which is for a lot of herbivores, but also pigs and hippos. The scratching post for a lot of the big cats, and the rubbing pillar for many of the herbivores, but also a few of the cats. And I will switch over to the restraint feeder first, because I didn't prepare the habitat for them. But one easy way of doing so, or of hiding them, is putting rocks behind them, so you get this ugly backside. You can hide the ugly backside. Always check with the heat map, with the terrain heat map, if the animals can reach it. But I found out in my tries that most of the animals, even the big crocodiles, can still use it, as they only need to reach the front of it. Moving on, we have the beaver pool, and this is a bit interesting, as it works kinda like the other big octagon-shaped thingies, but with a little bit of a trick, because why the other ones you could hide underground. I will show that later. These ones need to be a little bit above ground, like this one, simply because there's an animation playing. You see it right here. The beaver, actually this animation starts as soon as the beaver climbs this ramp, and then he goes to build his little dam. And if you sink it down into the ground, there will be a little bit of problems. The beaver will hover a little bit over the water, because animation is not linked to the water, it's linked to this whole thing. So it doesn't really work to sink it into the ground. But what you can do, as you see here, you could of course cover it up a little bit with rocks. And I also made an artificial, kind of like a little river behind it, with the waterfall pieces, with these ones that we got with the aquatic pack. I think aquatic updated was, they come for freely. And I made a little bit of an artificial river with some of the birch pieces, so it looks more in theme. It doesn't just sticks out as it is here. It doesn't just sit around in the room, but it's actually part of a more complex build. Now we come to the carnivores, and one of the easiest one is basically the rotation line feeder, which works really easy. You can stick, despite the name saying rotation, this feeder doesn't rotate, and you can basically stick a tree in it, so it looks like it was mounted to a tree. The flesh or the meat will hanging down from this rope, and the cougars in this case will grab it. It doesn't rotate around, sadly. I don't know if this is a bug or if it's intentional, but you can just cover it up with the trees, or you can even use one that has more leaves or branches on it, so it's a little bit more hidden. And another one you can do is, if I can grab it, or I can just show it around, the scratching post. We got some new scratching posts a while back that look more natural. If I will just find it, as you can see here, I will just pause the game. We have of course the Scots pine scratching post, as well as the tamarind, which does look more natural and makes this a little bit obsolete if you don't want to use them. But as you can see, they can still use the scratching post. It looks a bit funky, they sink a little bit into the tree, of course. But if you just want to have a specific plan for them to scratch on, you can use this. Only thing you have to keep in mind is don't use a too thick tree, a too big tree. Otherwise, the hitbox of the tree will make this not or makes this undoable. Doesn't work then. If it's like this, then it still works just fine. So now we come to the big ones. I had a few Beavers and fallow deers here. Easiest one, of course, again, this one is the hanging grazer tree feeder. You can, same with the carnivores, you can just use a tree, stick it into it, and it looks like it was mounted on it. So it looks a bit more, it is a little bit more hidden than just standing around in the field. So it looks like the tree was actually used, and they just use it just fine, because they always feed from the front of it, never from the back. So that's an easy thing. And another one is with the rubbing pillar. You can just stick a tree into it. Again, don't use one that is too big or too thick. It just should fit in the middle of it. And now it looks like they used the tree and wrapped some rubbing pads around it. Now we come to the other two octagon ones. We start with the forage enrichment box. You can do the same thing as we did with the beavers. You can place some rocks around it, and they just use it just fine. Always check with the traversable area hitbox. If it's all blue, the animals will just use it just fine. They climb on it. If the meal is inside and you're good to go, you can also decorate with some grasses, with some trees, and it looks more natural. Or you can do this, and this is sinking it into the ground. Same way you can do this with the mud pillar, mud bath, of course rock version, but you can also sink it into the ground. Use some terrain paint like soil light, soil heavy, to give it a more muddy appearance, and put some grass around, some trees, some plants, some rocks, and it looks like this is a more muddy area of the zoo. You can also use it for more ambient uses somewhere in the, somewhere around in the park, also when it's heavy rained and there's muddy fields. The way to do this, because normally if you do something like this, if you sink something into the ground, it creates, it sinks the terrain down as well. And I think this is what many people have problems with, because it sinks the terrain, of course, because it's linked to it. One thing you have to do in order to sink them fully into the ground and so that they look like this, is to go into the options. So in the settings, you go into game and you activate disable animal navigation terrain constraints. If I disable it, I can go into the terrain tool, flattened foundation, and it will not raise the terrain around the enrichment item, around the feeder or so. It will always have it sunken down. If I activate it, so going settings again, and I activate it, it gives you a little bit of a warning that, some animal navigation and water replacement could be a little bit funky, but as I've tested out in hundreds of hours, nothing really happens. You can and if you now go with the terrain tool, you can just paint over it. You can just paint over it like that. Then you take something like the push tool, make it a little bit smaller. You go with the density a little bit down. You go a little bit deeper here. Go to flatten the foundation, and then you just you make the space free that you want to be shown. Of course, make sure the boundaries also come up again, but you have to be a little bit finicky. It takes a bit of time, but in the end you can achieve amazing results with this. Also with a little of plants, you can hide. Maybe if you have some boundaries sticking out, you can hide them, as I did here, I think. I did here. So I just placed some rocks on there, and the animals can use it just fine. And especially with the mud path, it looks, I think, phenomenal. It looks amazing, and it gives it more of realistic vibes than just having this sitting around in the corner of your habitat. Now the last one, and this is again as I showed you in the beginning of the video, the forage pool. One, I think, the trickiest one to use, and these flamingos are terrible loud. But if you know what you have to do, it's pretty easy. What you have to do, the easiest way is to use the push tool and create a little bit of a ditch here. Then you widen that ditch. Let's go a little bit higher so we have a little bit more place. You see if you can place water. No, I still have to make it a little bit deeper again. So like that. I hope this is deep enough. Yeah, it is. Okay, now we have this piece of water. It's really flat. Flamingos can just stay in it as they should. Flamingos are more of a flat water animal. Then you take your foraging pool, and same way as others, you can just go in here, go into a corner or go into the middle. Remember that you don't place it too far away in the water. So not if you have a giant lake and you place a foraging pool somewhere in the middle of this water. It might be that the keeper can't reach it. So always place them closer to the edges, and then you just place it. It can't, it will create a little bit of ditches around the water, but you can just come in with flattened foundation and raise them again. And then you can check with the, you go into habitat, you go into stuff, traversable area, and if this is highlighted in yellow, the keeper can reach it, they can fill it up, and everything just works fine. You can also see, if you go in here, on the flamingo, you can see they can reach it. Now what you can also do, same stuff with the other ones, you go in, you take a couple of rocks, maybe this mossy rocks, because you can't really hide the edges here, so you have to go in, take a bit of the mossy rocks, sink them down as much as possible, so that they cover the edges of this pool. You could even go down and cover the bottom of it, so it isn't really noticeable. Then also take some plants, some rocks maybe around, maybe some wood, some trees and so, and If if it's deep enough, you can even go let's go back, and you take this and you drag it even more down so the button is not visible. Of course, it again creates a ditch. We cover this up. Then we check with the staff traversable area. It's yellow, so the keeper can reach it. And now you don't have to cover the bottom, but it's just the natural, terrain you choose. You can also make it green, sandy, whatever you want. So yeah, this is a way to cover the foraging pool. And as I said, if you have found more ways to cover up other enrichment items, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I wish you a great day. I hope this helped you. A small little video for everyone. As again, usable in all game modes, franchise, sandbox, challenge, whatever you want. You don't need any special sandbox settings. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you in the next one. Goodbye!